Welcome again to Noob Aquatics, and we are here again with another tip on quarantine tanks. So I learned a lot of stuff by watching the internet and over the years of quarantining saltwater fish, but one of the cool things is it doesn't have to cost a lot of money if you want to quarantine your fish. So we have some fish that are getting ready to show up here tomorrow, all right, and we're going to quarantine them all together. And now don't do this with fish that are aggressive towards each other. That can that could turn out to be pretty bad. But what you do is you set them up in a quarantine tank. It's best most of the time to use water from your established tanks here, but sometimes that just isn't practical. So right now we are not really quarantining this tank, but we are doing a parasite treatment on it, so I can't use that water because it'd just be putting in meds and unbalanced doses into the quarantine tank. So what can you do? So this is what we decide. This is what we do. Always keep something on hand so that if you buy new fish or need to quarantine a sick fish, such as any of these fish in here, let's just say that you know, this checkered barb right here got sick or something, I'd want to scoop him out and put him directly into a quarantine tank. So how do you do that though? You need to first have a tank, you need a heater, you need some decorations. It's preferably good to get fake decorations for your quarantine tank, because medicine, if you put in high doses or do specific types of medicine, it'll kill those plants pretty quickly. So it's recommended to use fake plants. And then you need a way to balance out the KH and the pH and stuff like that. So this is our setup here, and we keep this whenever we're not quarantining any fish. We keep this in our closet. It doesn't run all year round, and the reason is because we always have backup media in our tanks. So let me show you some of those. So down here you'll see in our Aquara grow out tank, which there's tons of them. They're getting big and they're beautiful, by the way. We have media in here. So we have these sponge filters in here. They have beneficial bacteria. Oh, that's a little bitty guy. They have beneficial bacteria already on them, all right. So you see here, they're all in this tank here. Down here we don't, this is our snail tank, and a little cloudy because again it's right next to the light, but like I said, we keep some in here. And then in this tank down here we also have some. 1, 2, 3. All right, and this is where it's overcrowded, so the amount of bacteria that's on these things here will be a higher amount. So when you put them into a new area, you have a better chance of those surviving. So that's why we use our grow out tanks. You don't have to do that. You can use your regular aquarium, and that'll be just fine. Just make sure that if it's in your regular aquarium, it's always good to have it running so that it's pulling in water and you're cleaning it like normal and it's establishing that bacteria. And I'd recommend having them in there for at least a month, maybe longer, before you decide to use them in a quarantine tank, or even decide to use them to build a new tank. So but yeah, so that's things that you can do. Now we're going to take one of those and we're going to put it into our quarantine tank. So let me show you that and what you can buy and have set aside. And it cost us roughly 10, 15, it cost us less than $20. There's no light. You don't need a light on the quarantine tank. So let me show you what we have. Over here, you'll see it's on a cooler. Having it lifted makes it easier to do water changes if you need. It's literally right next to our kitchen table, but as you can see, it's a very long distance away from those tanks because you don't want this water to be mixed with any of your other ones. But this is just a regular tub. I think it's a 16-gallon tub I bought from Walmart. I drilled some holes in here. Okay. All right, drilled a bunch of holes in here to let gas and air to escape. I have on here, since you are medicating the tank, I have on two air pumps. So you see one here and one there. One of them is going to run the sponge filter, and the other one is just running an air stone right here. Okay, and that's just because when you add medicine, it actually reduces the amount of oxygen in the tank. One other thing you want to do is you want to always know how much water you have in the tank. So what you can do is take 1 gallon at a time, measure it out somehow. I'm not sure how you do it, but find some kind of way to measure 1 gallon out. And after every 1 gallon, you're going to make a mark. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I have exactly 10 gallons in this tank. Now I have another mark here because I want to know if I am at 11 or if I need to add more water for some reason. I don't want to go above that line because that will dilute the medicine too much. But yeah, so in here, I've already added calcium because fish that are sick, you know, or growing, they need calcium for their bones. So that's just something I do. You don't have to do it or anything. But what you'll see right here, I don't really have a lot of luck with this in the hang on the back filter or anything like that. But for short periods of time, it does help out in acidic water. Our tap water is about 6.8 when it comes out, which is lower than most. And I'll add some KH or carbonate salts in here to raise that up before I put the fish in there tomorrow. So that's another thing you can do, but always want to test your water. So this is purified water, no chlorine, but I still added the dechlorinator in there. Now, one thing you'll want to make sure you do when you do have this quarantine tank is you still want to treat the fish. So you have a heater here. I'll actually be adding another small heater in here because these don't quite get it to 82, so I will move this over to the right and put one right here so that it heats both sides of this quarantine tank. So that's one thing that I'm going to be adding to this. Now I don't have the media on there that you can see, so the reason is because there's no fish in here, so I don't want the nitrifying bacteria to die off before I put the fish in there that we're going to receive tomorrow. But yeah, so that's pretty easy. You just buy a tub, mark out, you know, up to 10 gallons on the side. Put in some crushed coral, which is what I have in there to help keep the pH and the KH stable. And then, of course, even though you are adding in established media, you still want to do, if you have stability, Seachem stability or Fritz, beneficial bacteria, whichever one you decide to use, you want to still add them every day. So a full dose on the first day and then a half dose on every single day after that if it's Fritz, and then or follow the instructions, whichever one you want to do. But that's what we do here, is we spend a 7-day period adding in beneficial bacteria at the start of an aquarium, and we've had great luck with that. Even when I don't use established media, I've still had great luck with that, as long as you don't overstock the tank when you first start it. So start out with maybe at the max 5 fish if it's a big tank, and then just add fish as you go to give those beneficial bacteria time to grow. But yeah, so we've had great luck with that, and we use that even in our quarantine tanks. Now, medicine such as the antibacterials that we put in there will reduce the nitrifying bacteria, but that's why we add it. So we add in nitrifying bacteria for that whole week. Test the water, test the water, test the water. I can't reiterate that enough. Always test it. When you first get it, don't test GH or KH, because the GH and KH, when you add the medicine in there, is just going to be through the roof. But yeah, so that's how you want to quarantine your fish. Like I said, we'll be getting them tomorrow, and I'll show you that we put them in there, and show you that I'm going to be adding the medicine. And we use a gram scale with the big thing since we have a lot of tanks, and I will dose it exactly to the T of, you know, the scale, so that it gets the exact dose of medicine that it needs. Now, a reason why it's on the stand, I don't know if I mentioned this, the reason why it's on the cooler there, okay? Reason why it's on the cooler is because I've had it on the floor before, and I've had an extremely difficult time changing out the water. Now you can use one of those pumps, you know, a circulation pump, or not circulation pump, basically just a water pump. You can use one of those, but it doesn't get the poop off the ground, so, or the fish turds, or whatever you want to call it, and all the extra food in there. It doesn't get that off the ground. So using a water siphon like you would on a gravel cleaner, I mean, is the best way to do it. So you need to make sure that you are elevated with your quarantine tank so that you can actually get the you know, the water siphon to actually work, or the gravel vacuum is what it actually is called. But I'll let you know, holding this phone with one hand, I got to get a stand or something. But holding this phone with one hand makes your arms tired. But yeah, so that's how we quarantine, and we do that to all our fish, not just one. We do it to all new fish before they come in. I did that with saltwater tanks, but it was just a bare tank. With freshwater fish, you can do the same thing, but you just have to observe them. So we treat with what Corey has recommended at Aquarium Co-op, the trio of meds, and then do a parasite treatment another couple weeks later, and then that's when we will introduce them to the main aquariums. And we've had great luck with that. So I would assume that everybody would have great luck with that. Now it doesn't mean you won't lose fish, because fish get stressed out a lot in transport. So these are being shipped through the mail, and your environment may not just be well established enough or just right for the fish. Some fish are just die. There ain't much you can do about it. So, but yeah, I'll show you tomorrow here whenever we add the fish and how I add the medicine. And that's how you quarantine fish. So stay tuned for tomorrow. Alright, so let's do this for a second time, because you actually got to hit record on the camera, otherwise it doesn't record anything. So as I mentioned, I was going to let you know how we actually weigh out our medicine for when we medicate our tanks. So if you take a look here in our quarantine tank back here, you'll see that the water is a slight blue color. That's because it's got the ICX in there. It's for 10 gallons, just 1 teaspoon, and then it's also got the Mardel Maricin and the Paracleanse, all measured out to 10 gallons, which is this line that the water's at currently. And we got our fish in there, which you'll see. You got the Emperor Tetras, the Cardinal Tetras in there, and then the Hong Sloy Epistogrammas in there as well, a male and a female. So yeah, so they're in there using on the trio of meds, and they'll be in there for a week. We'll change out the water, and then after we change that water out, we will let them sit for a couple days to monitor them. And we've had great luck after that. If they still look healthy and good after that, we normally just plop and drop them right into their new homes in the display tanks. Now, so let's show you how we measure it out. This right here is just a random gram scale that you can get. Why are you laughing?
Nothing.
Did it stop recording?
No.
Again? Okay. This is a gram scale right here that you can get off of Amazon. Really great. It has some shady reviews on there, but I gave it a try, and it works pretty good. It's about 15, 16 bucks, depending on if it's on sale or not. Comes with its own calibration weight, which is great, because a lot of them out there you have to buy separate calibration weights, and of course it's got simple instructions. So what do? So after I open it up, I turn it on, I hit the tear button, so it says 0. This is parchment paper I cut into little squares. Add the parchment paper, all right, and then hit tear again. That way it's 0, and then I add it out. So the reason why you want to do this, and if you have a 10-gallon aquarium, then you can disregard this and you can use the packets. But if you don't, let's just say you have a 5, you have a 2, or you have some kind of odd numbered aquarium, which they have some out there. I've seen 32-gallon aquariums. I've seen 29-gallon aquariums, you name it. I mean, there are many different aquariums out there that have different, gallons, and there is no medicine that you're going to be able to buy out there that will be able to dose those exactly. So that's where a gram scale comes into play. So what you do is you measure it. So with Paracleanse by Fritz here, which is what we use, and of course I have the Maricin and the ICX. ICX is a lot easier, but because it's liquid. But yeah, with the Paracleanse, you're going to measure out 1 gram per every 10 gallons. So I'm going to measure out a total of 1.5 grams for 15 gallons, because I'm doing it for 60. So Paracleanse doesn't dissolve very quickly. So I'm using multiple cups here to dissolve 6 grams of Paracleanse, and each one has 1.5 grams in it. So we'll just dump it onto the parchment paper, and then watch your scale. You want to go to 1.5. Take some practice if you've never done this before. I don't know why anybody uses gram scales except for this, but if you've done this before for other reasons, then I don't want to know them. They could be shady. Alright, we're at 1.43. This measures to 2 decimal places, which is great. So you see there, I went over. So all you do is just take this and scoop off some. Alright. It's at 1.47, and we start over again by adding more. Okay. And I'm going to stop right there because 1.49 is pretty darn close. So that's how you measure it out, and that's for 15 gallons. Now, like I said, if you have for 2 gallons and you use Paraclint, it's going to be 0.2. Another one will, be the Maricin. Maricin, it's 0.6 grams for every 10 gallons. So the easiest way to do that is just to take 0.6 divided by 10, and then take that number times however many gallons you have, and that's what you want to do here. Now, there's another way that you can guarantee you're getting the right amount. So most aquariums, they're rated at a certain gallons, but that doesn't mean that's what you have in there. So now I'm done with this. I'm going to keep this, and I have extras in here just in case it gets too saturated. You're going to tear it out and then turn it off, and then you add this back over to protect that. This I'll put back in there. This is the one thing I hate about these. This is not easy to put back in there. You gotta like turn it, scoop it, turn it, scoop it. Pain in the butt. They need a much smaller handle on this thing or something. So Fritz, if you watch this video, these scoopers, you need to make some adjustments to because they are impossible to get back into these containers. I did it no problem, but I mean it's not easy. You have to like grind it in there. So, and then you just stir these. Stir them up. Wait till they're all stirred. All right. Okay. I'll come back to those in just a second. So what do I mean by every aquarium has different volumes based on what they're rated at? Well, I have a 75-gallon aquarium, but based on my measurements, I only have 60 gallons of water in there. So how do I know that? Well, there's an easy way. I recommend people using AQ Advisor, but don't take it completely for a grain of salt. I mean, everybody has the rules on there, such as 1 inch rule per gallon. AQ Advisor's rule on there is really good. I like the way they do it, but again, it's all based on how well you are taking care of your aquariums, how many plants you have. So there's a lot of things that AQ Advisor does not have, and there's a lot of things that the 1 inch rule does not, tell you about. But AQ Advisor does have a way to determine how many gallons are actually in your aquarium. So you find the aquarium that you bought, set it up, and then you come over here. So if you'll see here on this side, you can see that my substrate's lower here. It's about 2.5 inches in the front, but in the back, it's about 5 inches. But in the center, you see it's about half that. So you're gonna measure from the center, and it does that all the way across the aquarium. So you're gonna measure here, all the way to where your water line is, all right? And here you'll see it's 15 3/4, all right? And then for your height on the AQ Advisor, you'll just change your height to match what your height is from your substrate. You don't need to change the width, you don't need to change the depth or anything like that. Just change the height, and you'll get a much more accurate measurement of how many gallons you actually have in your aquarium. And you can do that for all of them, even the 10 gallons. I'm going to let you know that if you have this at the black line here, you don't have 10 gallons in your aquarium, even if you have no substrate. When I measured it out, it goes way up here. It's almost to the top of the aquarium and spilling over. Some of these don't actually have 10 gallons in it. Same thing with this here. This 40-gallon breeder, it's actually rated at 44 gallons or something like that. It actually has more in it, but yet when you measure it out from the substrate level, which this substrate is even all the way to the back, measure it out from here to there, leave the other measurements the same, there's only 36 gallons of water in here. So measuring that out, or 37 gallons of water in there. So measuring that out, it tells you how much water you have and how much you need to medicate your tank. Almost everybody out there is either under medicating or over medicating their tank. based on the rules and instructions on the medication. And that can be pretty damaging and pretty dangerous to some of your scaleless fish, such as corydoras or certain catfish and that type of thing. And we have them in all of our aquariums except for the grow out tanks, especially puffers. But yeah, so that's how you measure it. And then, like I said, you just enter that information into AQ Advisor, and it'll tell you to the right how many gallons on an estimate that your tank has. Now, it's not exact, but it is very, very close, and that's what I recommend there. So then, yeah, what you do is you stir these, and I'm going to go ahead and stir them, and then I'll cut out a little bit of that so they don't have to see me stir them all. You can keep recording though.
Okay.
All right, so now we got these all stirred, and we're going to add these to the 75. Now, why are we doing that? Well, we added some new fish in there and decided we were going to medicate the entire tank because I didn't have time to add them into my quarantine tank. I don't recommend that, by the way. You have to use a lot of medicine. But we wanted to just make sure it's kind of a what do you call it? It's a preventive thing. So nothing in here was sick. Not a single thing in the tank was sick at all. But it's been a long time since they've been medicated, and I did add a few new fish in here. So I wanted to make sure that the entire tank was clear. Now, why would you do that? Because if you have a quarantine tank and you set up a tank like this, I'm going to let you know that there is sickness in your aquarium. Even though it's a brand new aquarium, it doesn't matter. There's sickness in here. It comes and goes magically in my mind, because you can put fresh water in there. You can put fresh water in there, brand new substrate in there, and somehow you got parasites show up, probably from plants or new fish. You have fungus and bacteria and all that stuff show up. So no matter what you do, there is sickness in your aquarium. No matter what anybody tells you. Yes, your fish may never get sick, but that's because the fish themselves are healthy and fighting off the parasites or the bacteria or fungus or whatever it is. They are healthy. So that's what you strive for in an aquarium, is healthy fish. But there's nothing wrong with preventatively medicating your tank. So what are we doing? We already did the trio of meds as a preventative, waited 2 weeks. Now we're doing the parasite meds again, and we're going to do the full treatment. So medicate today, medicate in 3 days, and then change the water on Saturday. And then a month down the road, we're going to add paraclins to all of the aquariums, all right, to also completely eradicate any parasites that may have been brought with any new fish that we have. So yeah, so whenever you put it into the aquarium, you'll see that one thing you want to do is you want to put it directly into the flow. Why? Because if you don't, it just stays in one spot. But if you put it into the flow, all right, it blows it all over the aquarium and spreads it out so that you don't have to in the end. And make sure that when you do that and you use cups, you take the cup and you get all the medicine that's in there out, all right, so that you're not losing any of that medicine that you put in the aquarium. And you'll do that with all of the cups that you have. Like I said, I do this because it dilutes a lot easier, and as you can see, it's still not very diluted. So it takes a while with this parasite meds, but it does dilute, and you'll end up seeing a clear aquarium again in a couple days. But we're going to do this twice in a week, so we're going to have these white specks all over the aquarium for a couple days. And you'll see it's spreading everywhere. So this is why you put it directly in the flow, because it goes everywhere. Tell you the truth, I really don't know how much it actually dilutes. It's probably just a time thing, but I like to put it in the water first, stir it up, and then spread it in. And as you can see, it doesn't really look like it helps any, so it might just be the way that med is made. It probably just takes a while to dilute in the water and break down. I bet it would dilute and break down much quicker if you had a more acidic pH, so below 7. But pH in here is 7.2, so it'll take the normal speed to dilute down. And like I said in one of my other videos, I reuse these all the time. So if you buy a big thing, like we have a 120 pack in the back there we got. It's probably still got 100 and something cups in it, because all I do is rinse them out, wait till they break, and then I recycle them. You got to rinse them out, of course. But yeah, wait till they break, we throw them into recycling, and then I grab another one, and I just keep moving on. But yeah, so that's how you do it. So that's how you medicate your tanks. That's how you add it in, that's how you measure it out, and that's how you determine how many gallons of water you have. Because remember, almost everybody out there is either over medicating or under medicating, so it's best to be as close as possible. And using AQ Advisor's website to measure out the height based on your substrate level and the amount of water you actually have in there is the best way to do it to be the most accurate. It's not perfect, but it is the closest you can get to being perfect. Alright, so yeah, so that's how you medicate, that's how you measure, and that's how you quarantine fish when you get new ones. And again, like I said, this is a preventive thing. We're going to do it to all of our aquariums over a few day period, so that we're not changing 10 gallon or 10 aquariums full of water, you know, on the same day. But yeah, so thanks for coming to Noob Aquatics, and we hope you enjoy the video. Have a great day.